Warning: the following podcast and rated listener R due to strong language, violent situations, drug references, sexual innuendos, and who knows what else. Listener discretion is advised. With that being said, hang on, sugar tits, because we're about to get wobbled.
Weird. What's up, guys? We're back with another episode of the Let's Get Wobbled podcast, and I'm telling you, this is not an episode you want to miss. Share this episode with your friends. I promise you, they're going to want to hear this one. You're going to want to hear this one. I'm telling you, it's probably one of the best episodes I think I've done. I've had a great time doing it. It's the 21st of July. We just come back from our big summer event for Rendezvous. I got my bags unpacked. I got everything in the washer. I got ice machine making ice again, just get everything in the house that needed done as soon as I got home from Rendezvous. I was like, I got to start editing this podcast because it just, this episode means so much to me because it lets the community know who we are. I was able to take the podcast with me to Rendezvous to Warren, Michigan this year, and I got some great interviews lined up. Unfortunately, this is going to be a two-parter, so you guys are going to want to hang in to hear the second part. If you enjoyed the first part, I'm telling you, you're going to enjoy the second part. The first part is some really good guys. I start out with some heavy hitters, and the second part is just as good, if not just a little better. Not the people, I would say, but just the stories. You know, I love all these guys that I interviewed, and I had a great time interviewing them. And a lot of these stories and a lot of these things you're going to hear mean a lot to me, and it mean a lot to the people that I interviewed. So I hope you guys have a good time. But the disclaimer that I want to give to you guys is start off with your audio just a little bit lower than what you're used to. There's going to be some bike noises. There's going to be people talking in the background. There's going to be some music might be playing in the background as the bikes roll through. I tried to cut out as much of that as I could, but I didn't want to take away from what people were saying when these audio cues were happening. So you may get a little bit of that. These new mics that I'm using pick up a lot of sound, and it's good for just podcasting if you're in a quiet setting. But if you're outside, it's going to capture some other things going on. So I wanted to give you guys a heads up for that. Let's go ahead and round this off and get it started. We're going to start off with Heimdall and Longhaul. Those guys are both Cambridge chapter members. They're my brothers with the same chapter that I'm through. Then we go off to Happy out of the Brook Park chapter of Ohio. Then we move on to Fifth Gear and Piss Break, both from Dixie, Kentucky. Believe me, you guys are going to want to stick around for the stories and how these guys got their name. After those guys, we come back to Ohio with Half Stick out of Portage County. I've told a lot of stories about Half Stick. You guys are going to want to hear his stories. He's a good fucking dude. Then we round out the end of the episode with Havoc from East Washtenaw, Michigan. He was one of the guys. He was the chapter president that put on the Rendezvous for us. He's got a really good story. He talks about the Rendezvous and everything like that. So we'll go ahead and get the first episode started. So if you would, crank that audio down just a little bit, and I hope you guys enjoy yourselves. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are live at Rendezvous 2024. This is definitely a different experience for me. This is the first time I've ever had the Let's Get Wobbled podcast on the road. And we're looking forward to trying to do this and just kind of seeing how things work out. So with my first interview, I have Cambridge's newest patch member. Hang on, there's a motorcycle. You might hear motorcycles in the background throughout these interviews. I'm trying the best I can, but with the noise canceling, I hope it works out. But Cambridge's newest patch member is Heimdall. What's going on, brother?
What's going on, brother? I'll be good here.
So, obviously, I've already said your name is Heimdall. So why don't you tell everybody that doesn't know anything about you a little bit of background about yourself and how you got your road name?
Absolutely. So, when I joined the club, I was already real big into Norse mythology. I've always been a real big fan of mythology. In college, I studied. I took several mythology courses and always really took to the older stuff. So Greek and Norse mythology, and I really loved the storytelling of Norse mythology. So my bike was always done in Norse mythology. Even before I joined the club, I had custom covers made. I had primary covers and gas tank covers, all that kind of stuff kind of made. My dad always thought that was kind of neat. So when I got ushered into the club and he became my sponsor he wanted to find the name that he thought fit best for me, so he went with Heimdall.
Okay, so for people who don't know who Heimdall is, describe to everybody what is or who is Heimdall.
So Heimdall is one of the Norse pantheon gods. He actually is the controller of the Bifrost. He's real big into who comes and goes from the city of Asgard. He controls who comes in and out, and he's actually destined to play a big part at the end of days. He blows a big horn called Gallarhorn, and I'm actually wearing my shirt today. My Norse shirt. I got it here from Northern Black. They're awesome. They're actually a company that I love buying their stuff from. They tell great stories in their shirts. He blows Gallarhorn, which will signal Ragnarok, the coming of the end of the days, and the final battle that everyone's going to take place in, including Odin and Thor and Heimdall, and who they're going to fight, and kind of like how that's all going to play out. So I really enjoy the storytelling, of cultures and how they just embraced the future, knowing what was going to come, some not knowing what was going to come, and just how they just dealt with their day-to-day lives going on. So I loved it, and that's kind of how my name come about.
So tell me about your first experience, because obviously this is your first Rendezvous here in Michigan. What do you think so far with it being we're now the second day into it?
So, my dad's been going to Vooz for forever. I mean, my old man, Scout, he's been coming to Vooz since I was in high school. Been a member of the Warthogs, like I said, since I was in high school. He's always been talking them up, talking them up, talking them up. It's a great time. You got to know the guys, got to know the people. You just got to know the culture, all of it. And I was always skeptical growing up, kind of thinking, it's not for me. It feels like an old man thing. My dad was an older guy. Of course, I was a young kid. I was 16, 17, 18 years old, didn't know no better. And the older I got, eventually I was like, okay, I'm gonna give this a try, and joined the club. Had no regrets. He's like, you need to go to your first VU, and you're patched in, because I started prospecting after the last VU. And let me tell you what, no disappointment here. I'm having a great time.
It's a blast.
Oh my god,
VU is definitely the one event that I would never try to miss. Next year's going to be extremely difficult with it being in Texas.
So difficult.
But it's one of the events that I look forward to every year, and especially for me too, because I got my start there, and it was like my first big test of getting into the club was being at the first Rendezvous and like meeting how many fucking people are here. This place is packed with Warthogs. I mean, there's 4 or 5 hotels right here in this area, and they're all sold out.
I mean, I'm counting at least 5. Like I said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they're just bikes everywhere. Yeah. You can't go nowhere without hearing the exhaust or the music, and the vests are everywhere. I mean, I'm like, hey, my wife and I hopped on a bike last night. Like, hey, we're gonna go to the liquor store, just get some stuff. Took a little ride up the freeway there, and I mean, I couldn't stop past them. Get off the liquor store. The Warthogs were there in the liquor store. We're all looking for the same stuff. We turn around, go back past them, park at the hotel. They're all there, and all of them are just so accommodating, so friendly. Want to talk to you. Where are you from? How you doing? Anything we can do for you? It's been an amazing experience, to be honest with you, and I'm having a great time.
So let's, outside of the motorcycle club, who is Heimdall on the streets? So what do you do for a living outside?
So on the outside, I work for the city of Cambridge. I'm a sergeant for the Cambridge Police Department. This makes year 12 for me. Working for the city. Again, no regrets there. I've had a blast. I work with some amazing dudes that I know have got my back. I got their back. We have, like I said, a good program there. I really have no regrets. My father worked there for 28 years, I think, before he left. I started right about the end of his tenure.
Both of you served on Cambridge's SWAT team too.
So he had actually left the team by the time I got there. But that's part of the reason he got his name. One of the 2 reasons he got his name. And he was a scout sniper on the team. I joined the team after I had a few years on the department and kind of showed that I knew what I was doing, could hold my own. Really enjoyed that experience as well, because then I get to travel and work with other teams, see how other guys, do stuff. It's actually amazing to see how across the state and other states across the nation, we're all doing the same thing in different places.
Right.
It's all the same. They'll different here and there, but I mean, like, to know that other guys are out there doing the same thing, facing the same problems, and I can come to a place like this,
right,
and talk to them and share a story, and no one looks at me all side-eyed. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I talk about certain things that happen to me at work, and even my own wife, God bless her, you know, she looks at me like kind of with a side eye, and you never realize how fucked up something is till you
Yeah.
tell it to somebody who's not working
And
in
especially
the line of work,
right.
and then you're like, oh, damn.
Especially the stories too, like in corrections, you try to go home and you explain that to your significant other what happened during the day, and there's so much more detail and so much more shit that you have to put in the story so that way they understand it. When I can go and just talk to any CO around the state, it doesn't matter, even around the country, and you can tell them what happened in your day, and they automatically get it and they understand a little bit more than somebody that doesn't work in that profession.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. Absolutely.
So, and the last thing to wrap this up, me and you had already talked just a little bit, and I told you kind of the rundown of what I wanted the interview to go by, and I wanted you to tell a story about either you at work or you with the Warthogs, and your face immediately lit up, and you said you already knew the story you had. So I'm going to go ahead and let you share that story about you and your dad.
Yes, I knew the story. So when I started on the job, I don't even think I had a year in. We as a department were facing some tough times. We lost a few guys at a key moment, and we only were running minimum staff. We had minimum staff guys, and I remember my father at the time was a captain. He didn't work the road. He didn't work the streets. He'd worked the streets at that point for 20. I think he became a captain at 25 or 26 years in, and his work on the street days were over. Right. Well, one night we were minimum staffed. It was me, a lieutenant, and one other road guy for the whole city of Cambridge. And I mean, on a busy night, that's a lot of calls for 3 dudes to handle. And I remember Dad had called me when I got to my shift, and he was like, "Hey, I'm coming in." I said, "You what?" He's like, "Coming in." I was like, "What do you mean you're coming in?" He said, "I'm a fuck captain. I can come do whatever the hell I want. I'm coming into work. I'm coming to help you boys." So next thing you know, he shows up, standing out back in the white shirt, black pants with a blue stripe. I mean, in a uniform. I ain't never seen him in a captain uniform like that. He's in his uniform, and he's out back. He's like, "I'm gonna take a car." Well, I had taken at the time we were in Dodge Chargers. He's like, "I don't need one of those. I'm gonna take one of the old Crown Vics. I'm an old guy. I can drive a Crown Vic. You don't know how many calls I've been on them Crown Vics." He hops in a Crown Vic. He goes out. 3 or 4 hours go by. Me and this other new guy at the time, we started at the same time. We're pulling over car after car after car. Traffic stop, Cambridge verbal warning, Cambridge verbal warning. Looking, we're fishing, right? We're trying to find us the big fish of the night, you know? Didn't use turn signal. You pull them over. That's not what I want. Have a nice night. Well, 2 or 3 hours go by. You don't hear nothing. My dad's unit number back in the day was 9. You hear him on the radio. Real deep stoic. 9 Cambridge traffic stop. I mean, we're all like, "Ooh, here he goes. Captain's pulling over
Big
a
dog
car.
got somebody now."
Here he comes. Here comes a big dog off the porch." And then you hear, "Cambridge got one running." Oh shit!
No shit.
Oh shit!
That's great.
Me and this other guy, whoa! I mean, as fast as we can across town, trying to get to him. He's on North 9th Street. We come rolling up. I jump out of the cruiser, thinking, "Here we go." You know, my old man's bent over in a car in the driver's seat. Can't see his face. Just bent over, butt kind of hanging out, down on one knee. Like, what the hell? He hears us pull up. He gets out of the car. Got a cigar hanging out of his mouth. smoking a Swisher Sweet. He turns around, takes a big draw. I yell, "Where did he go?" And he goes, "He went that way." And I was like, "You didn't chase him?" He goes, "Nah, that was Wiener. I know him from back in the day. He went that way. I ain't chasing him for driving on a suspended driver's license." He's like, "File a warrant for his arrest and get him later. Ain't worth it. Too old for that."
That's great. And I could see your dad doing some shit like that too, but oh my God, that would be hilarious to see.
I was just in awe.
Right.
Just in awe. Like, "What? You didn't chase a guy?" And he's like, "You get there." He's like, "Chase a guy through the woods for what? For a driver's license? A file warrant for his arrest. Get him later." And wasn't long after that, like a couple weeks later, I walk into his office one morning. I worked night shift at the time. Walk into his office at 7 a.m. I'm getting ready to go home. Say, "Hey, bub, I'm going home. Need anything?" He's got a subpoena taped to his cabinet, which is where he kept all his subpoenas for court. He kept them in a line. Dad's very organized. Kept them all in a line. Right at the top, he had a subpoena for that individual. Someone had picked him up on a warrant. He's like, "See, told you, someone get him."
That's great. That's awesome. Well, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I hope that I can get some more Warthogs out here to share their story. But thank you for being the first one, obviously, to jump out.
No,
And with your
absolutely.
support with the club and not only them, but the podcast too. I really appreciate everything.
Happy to be here, brother.
Thanks so much, buddy.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys. So the next interview I have, we have another Cambridge member here with us. This video is super special for this member. We'll go ahead and introduce him first. This is Longhaul, one of Cambridge's members. You actually originated with Bel Air chapter first, correct?
That's correct. I originated with Bel Air, and then when the Cambridge chapter formed 10 years ago, I was one of the charter members for Cambridge. And ironically enough, this VU area is exactly where the Cambridge chapter patched in 10 years ago.
So, like you said, this is a special year for you because you're getting your Lifer member this year, your Lifer coin. So, for those who don't know outside of the club, what is a Lifer coin or what does Lifer status mean to them?
Life member status, it means I've been an active member in good standing with the club for 10 years or more. And it's been a very interesting road for the past 10 years.
I'm sure it has, especially seeing like with these VUs and different events and traveling across the states and everything and getting to see and meet different people. Heimdall and I were talking about it. There's so many people at these events, and you continue to shake hands with people that you still are yet to meet yet, or people that you've seen and met just at Rendezvous. And you see each other at Rendezvous, and that, just the brothership that you build with people that you hardly ever see, but how tight knit that bond is.
The brotherhood and partnership that you develop here in the Warthogs is very unique. Along with that, you know, you're meeting new members, you're interacting with old members that you may only see at this event, you know, every year or even Winter Bash. And it, for me, with this and with some of my other jobs that I do, you know, I can run into some of these members throughout the country on my travels for work. There's a few months ago for St. Patrick's Day, I actually got to spend St. Patrick's Day with the Allen Park guys because I was up here working out of my Detroit office.
Okay. So now, outside of the motorcycle club, who is Longhaul? So what do you do on the outside?
Well, it depends on the day of the week, honestly. Currently, I'm operating 2 farms. I also work fire and EMS for 2 departments in Ohio. I also volunteer with 2 departments at home in Guernsey County. And on top of that, I also travel with the NHRA Division 3 Safety Safari, and I also will occasionally go out on the road for a production company building different events from cheer competitions to political campaigns, concerts, a little bit of variety of everything for that.
And I think the special thing that you and I bond especially over is I joined the fire department or the motorcycle club as a volunteer firefighter, and you and I are the only ones out of Cambridge that are fire background.
That's correct.
And some of the shit that that's the reason why I think one of the biggest things that I gave up the fire department with is there's so much shit that you deal with, and you see people on their worst fucking days. Nobody calls 911 on the great day. You know, everything's going good, call 911. Anytime anybody ever calls 911, it's some of the worst things that you'll ever deal with. And yet you and I were the guys that would show up and be there for those people. And I think people don't realize it's a 24/7 job, whether you're volunteer paid. It's any time of the night, any time of the day. Anybody could have anything go on, and we're the ones that were expected to show up.
You're 100% right on that. And, you know, along with that, you never know what that call is going to be. Anything from, you know, grandma stubbed her toe to my mom's having a seizure and you get there and she's actually in cardiac arrest to a few months ago, I was on the major bus crash on I-70 outside of Columbus where 3 students and some of their teachers from a high school in northern Ohio lost their lives. At one point, I mean, that scene was big enough. At one point, it became a level 3 mass casualty where we had 20 medics posted on that interstate loading patients and getting them out of a fiery bus crash.
Right. So, and you're more than welcome to tell whichever story you so choose. I told you could tell anything from like the motorcycle club if it's funny, or like story that you might remember, or anything about a call that you might remember. So if you have a story that you want to share with everybody, just something lighthearted or something that means something to you, feel free to do so.
Well, 10 years ago when I patched into the Bel Air chapter, I was patched in by a very special friend of mine who later passed on, and everybody will remember the wonderful man of Breeze. But I distinctly remember we had gone up to an event that they used to have in northern Ohio called the Swamp Crawl. And, you know,
it was my first swamp crawl, and it was very unique. It was that time of year where you risked riding your bike if you wanted to because it could still snow. You never knew, especially northern Ohio with the Great Lakes. We had everything from people riding motorcycles out through cornfields going on to we went to a bar and everybody that knew Breeze, well, Breeze accidentally knocked his beer over at the bar, and it was the first beer he'd had at that bar. And the bartender immediately cuts him off because told him he was too drunk, and he just kind of had that look. And needless to say, that was the last drink any of us had at that bar. We got up and left and went back to the hotel and got ready for the rest of the day's festivities. Throughout the years, there's a lot of stories you can develop with the Warthogs, but a lot of it is the camaraderie you get. Not only are we the public safety field, but the amount of veterans that we have. And, camaraderie between them. And that's why I think a lot of the members have come to the club is to keep that brotherhood, keep that camaraderie that we have known throughout the military, throughout the fire and EMS field, throughout law enforcement, and whatever way we go, there's pretty much nowhere that you can go in the United States and not run into a club, a chapter, or somebody that or have met over time.
Right. And I think that's awesome about this club that I love so much about is we're nationwide also. Just updated, we have 88 chapters all across the U.S. And we even have Canadian chapters and Norwegian chapters.
Yes.
And I think it's just like you said, you can't go anywhere. Now, granted, you might not know that you bumped into somebody, but I'm sure you could go almost anywhere and find somebody that's a part of our club or knows about our club or something like that.
Oh yeah, well, and that's last night we were eating dinner at a restaurant, and there was a lady came up to us in the restaurant, and she was describing somebody that she knew from Ohio from when she worked at a bar down here. Took us a little bit to figure out who it was, but we did figure out who it was. But with my travels and everything that I do with the production company, getting down to we have an office in Orlando. It's nothing to meet up with the Orlando or the Daytona guys while we're down there. 2 times down there. He originally started in the Cambridge chapter. Come up here to Detroit. There's a lot of chapters around here. I've got an office up here. Even get over to Maryland. The Maryland chapters and everything. It's not uncommon for me to run into somebody somewhere. It's just amazing how all this chapter works.
Well, Longhaul, I really appreciate you taking the time and helping support the podcast. Thank you again, and I hope you have a wonderful view.
Thank you, sir.
All right, guys. So with our next interview, we got a good friend of mine. It was actually cool that I got to catch up with you because you were up there at the Cleveland Memorial that I went to this for my first year. But I'm glad I got to sit down and have an interview with you. I'd like everybody to meet Happy Ending. What's going on, brother?
What's going on?
So first off, tell everybody what chapter you're from. And go ahead and tell us, obviously, everybody's going to want to know the story about how Happy Ending got his name. So go ahead and start off with some of your Warthog info. There you go.
I'll start off first by saying that I am in the Brook Park chapter of the Warthogs. I started in the Cleveland chapter of the Warthogs in 2014. I was not happy once I got patched in. I transferred over. And I did not leave bad blood in Cleveland. And my name came about because my last name is Handy. And most of our guys are police officers or firemen, which served in our armed forces. And if you're overseas and you want to go for a happy ending, they say they want a Handy.
Right.
Well, my name's Handy.
That's great.
So that's how I got my name.
Right.
It's not a pretty story,
right,
or anything like that.
Some people don't have great stories behind them, but some.
No, but it is. And to be honest, I thought they thought that they were gonna, hey, let's give him happy ending. It's gonna be funny, but I run with it, and everybody loves it.
Right.
And as most people don't even call me happy ending; they just call me happy.
Right.
Because I'm always happy.
Right.
I'm always in a good mood. So so in a way, it works out both ways.
Right.
But yeah, if you're in the service and you go overseas, you want a massage, you want a happy ending, they call it a Handy.
Right.
And my last name was Handy, and the gentleman in our club, which is Shadow from Cleveland, he was the one that brought it up, and he's like, he was in the service, and he's like, hey, call him happy ending. And that's how I got it.
So we've heard about who you are as a Warthog. What do you do outside of the club? So what is your job title, if you will? Where do you work?
Well, I've worked in law enforcement. I did 20 years as a truck driver over the road. I went into law enforcement, and I have, in the last 10 years, I retired from law enforcement, also from truck driving and law enforcement. And I am just doing auxiliary work for Fairview Park,
Okay.
Ohio. And I'm also a reserve for Ottawa County Sheriff's Department in Ohio.
Okay.
But it's all voluntary. It's all it's not. I don't have a schedule. I don't
Right.
have to report every day. I get the easy job. I get the parades.
Sure.
And, I get to wave the kids and pass out candy.
Sure.
The good stuff. With Fairview, it's a little different. I mean, I still go in. I still back up the regular officers. A lot of people don't understand the auxiliaries, and they don't have the full authority as a regular police officer. But at the same time, on a scene, we are their backup.
Sure.
So I mean, it works out both ways for
Right.
them and us.
Got a lot of our guys coming back from the president's meeting, so we're gonna have bikes coming in and out. But
And the damn bikers.
no.
A lot of people don't understand motorcycle clubs. They always want to call them a gang.
Misconception.
Yes, everybody wants to call us a gang. We are a club, and between just me and you, I'll say we would do anything for each other, just like our other 1,200 members of
Right.
our club. If one of them was in need, we would step up. And a lot of civilians that are not in motorcycle life don't understand the motorcycle life. They always want to see the negative of motorcycles, and not everybody on a motorcycle is an outlaw.
Right.
See our 5 or 6 brothers that's pulled out.
Right.
They'll go out to the main street. Somebody will see them and think that they're outlaws,
Right.
that they're bad people, and they don't realize that if there's something was to happen on the road, we would be the first ones to
We're
stop.
the guys that show up.
Yes,
Absolutely.
we would be the stop. We would help. Our we have the EMTs, the firemen, and we would stop and we'd be the first ones on scene,
Right.
for the first aid. They don't realize that not all bikers are bad,
Right.
and that's the bad part about being in our club.
Right.
Is we could roll out 800 deep like we are here tonight, and everybody's going to look as we're bad people.
Right. Yeah, I think that's the worst part, is the misconception, because everybody's going to immediately profile you and see the cut. They're immediately going to think these guys are up to no good.
Bike
fucking,
and cut.
yeah.
Yes. And they're not going to see that you're a first responder.
Right.
The next day when your house is burning down, you're going to show up, or the next day when your neighbor's fucking trying to beat you up.
Right.
We're going to be the first ones showing
Right.
up. They don't understand that, and we have a hard job. I want to say we, because I mean everybody in our club.
Right.
We have our jailers, we have our firemen, we have everybody that's dealing with everything to do with law and order and first responding, and nobody understands that we deal with the worst of the worst every day, and everybody wants to second guess what we do.
Right. Well, Happy, I really appreciate everything. I appreciate you coming on. Let me give you an interview out. I appreciate it, and we'll get on to the next interview. Thanks so much again, buddy.
Thank you.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. Okay. Loose
All right,
tongue.
this is an interview I've been looking forward to all fucking weekend. And I told Kristen when I got this shit and I was able to figure out that I could take it on the road, you were one of the guys that I wanted to interview, because you actually came to me after season 1 had ended. And you're like, man, are you going to get that shit back up? And I'm like, I didn't even know you listened. But I want to introduce to you guys Fifth Gear. What's going on, boss?
Hey, what's going on, Wobble?
So tell everybody a little bit about who you are, where you're from, because you're from obviously a different state than the other guys that I just interviewed, but
Yeah.
tell everybody who you are, where you're from, and how you got your road name.
All right. So I'm from Kentucky. I live in LaGrange, but I'm in the Dixie chapter, and then that's located over in Erlanger, which that's like northern Kentucky area.
Okay.
And I got with them 2021, late 2021, early 2022, and just I love motorcycles, so I got with those guys, and then it's a cop club, fire club, so I fit right in. So I work at I'm a police officer. I work over in Oldham County. It's in Kentucky, next to Louisville, Kentucky. If anybody's knows where Louisville's at, so it's right outside of Louisville, Kentucky. And I've been working there 16 years, almost ready for retirement. So,
Awesome, that's great.
yeah.
So obviously your name is Fifth Gear. Let everybody know what Fifth Gear is.
So Fifth Gear, I got that name. I don't if anybody knows, if everybody watching at the Sandbox kind of gave me that name. So I was over in I was doing the zombie run over in Georgia, and I was a prospect. And my fear was when I was doing the ride, I didn't want to be the guy that stood out as a prospect. So
No, you don't want to stand out at all as a prospect.
No,
Anyways,
you want to blend.
You're
you
right,
wanna blend.
as
So,
best you can.
You're right. So the only thing I didn't want to do is have a problem with my bike while they're doing the ride and have to turn off to the side where everybody just goes by. So sure enough, we're going down the road and we're doing pretty good, but we had to make a sharp turn and I couldn't get my my bike out of fifth gear. So I am in fifth gear and I cannot shift down. There's just nothing there. So I have to pull off to the side like I did not want to do. And everybody's just flying by
Right.
me, right?
Everybody
So
wearing a cut, wearing a patch.
oh, and they're looking at me.
And you're
too.
the prospect.
Yeah. And so I'm sitting there and I'm struggling with this bike, trying to get it in gear. And so finally everybody goes by. And Sandbox is she's in the back with the trailer, making sure if anybody breaks down that she's got them. And I'm there and I finally get the bike in gear. And I'm ready to go. And she looks at me, but by this time, everybody's gone. There's nobody in sight. So she looks at me. She goes, "You know where we're going?" I'm like, "Nah, I don't
fucking clue.
I have no idea.
I'm supposed to follow them,
Yeah,
and
I
they're
have
long
no
gone now,
idea.
so I'm fucked.
Yeah, I have no idea where we're going." So she said, "Well, just follow me. We'll go there." And she gets me to the location where we're going. And as soon as I get out, she gets out the truck and she looks at me. She goes, "Well, what happened?" And I'm like, I got stuck in fifth gear." And sure enough, she points at me and she's like, "Well, that's probably going to be your name." So, and sure enough, by the time I got patched in, that was it.
That's awesome.
Fifth gear was my name.
That's
so,
awesome.
Yeah.
All these loud bikers and their fucking bikes, man.
Yeah, it's kind of loud, but yeah. That's what we're here for. So.
And me and Happy were just talking about it. Like, his biggest thing, he's like, everybody sees the bike and they see the cut, and the first thing they're going to think of is Outlaws.
Right.
You know, like, you're the shit truck. But he said these guys don't understand when they're in help or want anything.
Right.
We're the first guys to show up anyways. So to me, that always hits home because I'm like, I love bikes, and I finally get to share a passion with my bike and with my brothers, all being a part of some sort of public safety.
Yes. All right. Well, we get looks too, and it's funny because we'll get looks from people who don't know who we are.
Right.
And as soon as you stop and start talking to them, and they get to know who we are, they love us.
Right.
They're like, they find out, no, we're just here to have fun. We're all cops, firemen. And they're like, oh, well, we had no idea because
Right.
we thought you guys were like, 1%ers or something. And like, no, we're not here to terrorize the town. We're here to have a good time. And then we put a lot of money into the community, and they love it. We do the ride over at the Gorge, Red River Gorge in Kentucky. They love us over there, man. I mean, we got in their newspaper. We got a picture with their mayor and their sheriff. They love us, so they're all supportive. So I think it's a good look when you actually get to stop and talk to people, and they get to realize who you are and what you're about, and then it's a good way to grow.
Well, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. It means the world to me that somebody out there enjoys what the fuck I do for 2 hours. Just on a Friday night when I'm out drinking beer and smoking cigars and shit.
And I know you told your people again. How'd you get your name, Wobble?
So how I got the name Wobble, I was a prospect at your guys' Voo. I was with you guys, and I remember when I got there, because you're a prospect too, and everybody's like, "Hey, drink this. Hey, finish this and go get me another one.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, hold this while I walk away and just figure out something to do with it." So that's all it was when we got there on Friday. And I told my guys, I'm like, "Man, I don't want to get fucked up on Friday. I'd rather just get fucked up on Saturday."
It don't matter.
They're like, "No,
choice,
it doesn't matter as a prospect." But either way, you don't want to get fucked up on Saturday because the ride home Sunday is a bitch being hungover. Yeah. So I laid into it Friday, and I had just gotten over a really bad breakup. I bought my girlfriend a ticket with me to go to Voo. We were supposed to split a room, and I'm like, "Man, this just fucking sucks, so I might as well make the day of it." And I got so fucked up. I puked in a bush. I fell in said bush after I puked in it, got back up, rallied, and the song Wobble come on.
Yep.
And I was like, fuck it, I'm already here. And I danced the whole fucking time to that song.
Yeah.
And Sting I had met beforehand.
Oh yeah.
So I shake hands with Sting. He's one of the founding fathers, which is one of the guys you don't want to leave a bad first impression with.
Yep.
So I get fucking annihilated. Wake up Saturday. I'm super hungover. Go over to Sting. I'm like, hi, sir. Nice to meet you. I'm Cambridge's prospect. He's like, oh, we've met
Yeah.
before.
I know who you are.
It's like, man,
Yeah.
I don't know who you are, but it's
Yeah.
bad that you know who I am.
Yeah.
But thanks so much, dude. I really
Absolutely.
appreciate everything, man.
Absolutely, man.
All right,
All right, I'll give you my two good ones.
All right, guys. So we're back again with another interview. I have never met you personally, I don't think. Maybe I have. I'm sure we've shook hands before, but
Yeah.
Fifth Gear was telling me that you've got the stories. So this is where we're going to start off with. So I'd like to introduce everybody to Piss Break. So do me a favor. Tell me what chapter you're from. You're obviously a president with the chapter.
Yeah.
So tell everybody where you're from, how you got your name, and then we'll
So-
go from there.
All right, so I'm the president of Dixie chapter, which is in northern Kentucky, and I got my name because I used to have a different name and they changed it. My name used to be Bud Z because my last name starts with a Z, and I used to drink Bud Light. That was my beer. So I don't drink it anymore, but that was my beer. So it was Bud Z, but they changed it because my first VU I was going to in Georgia, I was in the back. I was a brand new rider. I was new to the club and everything, and I had to go to the bathroom, and I asked my wife, I said, I don't know what we do. I have to go to the bathroom. There's like 30 of us in this line. I don't know what to do. She said, well, I guess just go up to the front. So I rode up to the front about 95 miles an hour. I got up there. I looked at the guy that was leading us, who I had never met. He was from the Mansfield chapter. And I said, she has to pee. And I pointed at my wife, and he's like, all right. And we got off the next exit, and I jumped off the bike, and I ran into the bathroom, and she sat on the bike. And I came out, and he said, I thought she had to pee. And I said, no, I had to pee. I knew you wouldn't stop if it was me, so I made it up.
That's great.
So then they're like, all right. So then I kept stopping to pee during the trip, so they called me Piss Break.
That's
So
awesome.
that's where I got my name from. So yeah,
So outside the Warthogs, go ahead and tell everybody, like, where do you work? Or you said you're retired?
I'm retired now. I was a cop. I was a cop for 25 years in a suburban department outside of Cincinnati. We bordered Cincinnati on our eastern edge, and I retired as a lieutenant, and I was in charge of third shift. I was in charge of all different shifts during my career. In charge of our detective. I was in charge of our police explorers and our auxiliary volunteer officers. So one of the stories I was going to tell was we had an auxiliary officer, a volunteer officer. He was young. He started off with us as a police explorer, and I told him that he had to give us a fecal matter DNA swab.
Oh, shit.
And I had been drinking. We were at a festival doing a fundraiser for our police association, and I totally forgot that I told him that. And the next week he came in, and they called me on the radio, and they said, the officer's here to do the fecal matter DNA swab. And I was like, I have no idea what they're talking about. And then it came back to me. I was like, oh, damn, I got to go back to the station. So I went back to the station, and my detective was texting me the whole time. He's like, I want it to be known this is a bad idea. I'm out. This is horrible. I don't want to be sued. And I was like, I'm in too deep. I don't know how to get out of this. I don't know what to do. And we're all laughing and stuff. So I gave him a big manila envelope and some fingerprint cards for the FBI and some big swabs, cotton swabs. They're like about a foot long, and they use them for crime scenes. And I gave him two, and I said, so you got to go into the bathroom, you got to take a shit, and then swab it and put it on the card, and then sign the card and put all your information on the card, and then put it in the envelope and then give it to me. And I was going to make fun of him. And he said, well, I was going to make fun of him for just being stupid and believing me. And he said, well, what if I can't go? And I said, well, why would you come here to give me a DNA fecal matter sample if you can't even go? And he said, well, I'll try. And he said, should I just put it up me if I can't? And I said, why would you do that? I said, that's a horrible idea. Don't do that. So he comes out of the bathroom. He said I couldn't go. it came out clean. I said, what do you mean it came out clean? And he said, well, it came out clean. I said, did you put that swab up your butt? And he goes, well, yeah, I did.
Oh,
And I
shit.
said, did you put them both up your butt at the same time? And he said, well, I didn't do it one. I didn't want to do it one at a time, so I shoved them both up there. And he goes, and now my booty hole hurts. And I said, you're so stupid. I'm making fun. I said, I'm joking with you. This was a joke. You didn't have to do this. And he's like, ah. And then the whole time the detective texted me, you're going to get sued. I don't want to be part of this. I'm out. So I made him call another guy, and he called that guy to bring that guy in. And that guy lived like an hour away. And he called him, and after like 15 minutes, I said, hey, call him back and tell him it's a joke. Don't bring him in.
Right.
But I said, remember, you brought him in. You're part of this too now.
That's great.
So I made
you
him.
weren't the guy.
I made him part of it, so I couldn't get sued, or anything. He's our only black officer, so
That's awesome.
yeah. So
I do want to point out though, my first VU was with you guys in Kentucky, and
Yeah.
I had to partake in the prospect games. And I just want you guys to know that after puking my fucking guts up on Friday night, and then not wanting to drink anything on Saturday, of course you have no choice to drink during the prospect games.
right.
And that fucking hog dog that you guys made up was
Oh,
the
yeah.
only thing on my stomach at the time.
The wart dog.
The wart dog.
Wart
oh
dog,
my
yeah.
God, that was fucking miserable.
Yeah.
I was so glad. I was like, man, I know I failed. I gave it my all, but I ain't gonna fucking do that shit again.
It was a good time.
It was a good
It was
time.
a good time. I'm trying to get us to do the 2031 VU.
Okay.
It's not come up yet. I'm gonna work on it. I'm just new as a president, so I'm gonna work on it as it comes up. But they're right now at 28, trying to get 28.
Okay,
So
cool.
we had a couple years, but we did the 10-year, we did the 20-year, and 31 will be the 30 years.
That'd be
So
really cool. I can
we
see
want to
where-
do every 10 years.
Sure.
Our chapter doing that, So
All right, brother. Well, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you telling your stories.
Good
It's a
times.
great story.
good time. Man.
But I appreciate you sharing that with us, and we'll go on to the next interviews. Thanks again.
All
bud.
right, no problem.
All right, guys. This is another interview I've definitely been looking forward to getting to. A guy that has a super big meaning to me. One of the first Warthogs that I met outside of Cambridge. I want to introduce you guys to Halfstick. Halfstick, what's up, buddy?
What's going on, bro?
So I want you to tell everybody outside of. Let's start with the club. So tell everybody what chapter you're from, what you do for a living, and how you got your road name.
So I'm the president of the Portage chapter here in Ohio. I've been a policeman for 24 years, and
These fucking guys. We took your koozies that you gave us and put a little red X just through the M. I didn't think you guys would mind.
Leave.
So you're the president of the Portage chapter here. in
I
Ohio.
am. My name is Halfstick. I have a horrible cigar habit, and I ride. I smoke. I smoke while I ride. It might piss a few people off, but whatever.
I've never heard anybody complain.
Eh.
Do you, dude? But yeah, that's the one thing. Is I asked somebody, I was like, what do they call him Halfstick for? And they're like, just wait long enough. You'll find out. Never see that guy without a cigar in his hand.
That is true.
So outside of the Warthogs, what do you do outside? This is a public safety motorcycle club, obviously. So what do you do outside of the club?
I'm pretty much a homebody.
Okay.
Hang out with the wife at home. I got 4 grandkids. I have 3 kids, and then I have really good neighbors, and we pretty much party in my garage bar or in their garage, or we go over to their the one sister's house who has a in-ground pool. Just chill.
Awesome. So police officer though, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So do you have any stories that you'd like to share, whether it be about Warthog or about being a police officer that you'd like to share?
I was the last generation that got to be the police, where we were actually able to go and, chase suspects and.
Definitely not the way the world is now.
Correct. I love the job. I don't like the way the job has become, but I still love doing the job. I was one of those fortunate kids that knew when I was like junior high what I wanted to do. My dad was a fireman for 35 years. He was a nurse. I always joke that I became a cop to redeem the family name.
That's awesome.
So my wife's a nurse. So I'm your stereotypical cop. You know, I got the nurse for the wife, and
I think it's cool too. Me and Happy talked about it. It's crazy to see who we are as a motorcycle club, but yet everybody on the outside is going to see the cut and the bike and immediately think these guys are shitbags, they're outlaws, 1%ers.
correct.
But yet, the moment that they need help or they call for somebody to come and help them, we're the first guys to show up.
Yes. I've been in the club since 2010. I hung around the club and knew a lot of the members for years before that. The club was formed in 2001. I joined in 2010. I've made so many lifetime friends. I can't even imagine. Like a normal person would not understand.
Right.
And not only are we friends, but then I've had cases at work where I was able to reach out to a member to get investigative leads or assistance with a case at the drop of a dime.
Right.
And it's amazing. You know, myself, I've never had, fortunately, a breakdown where I was out of town, but I've had other members had breakdowns in my area, and we went and got them. You know, got them to the Harley shop, got them, you know, put them up for the night, whatever the case may be. And then even other law enforcement or firefighters that may not be in the club. I had a buddy from Milwaukee break down a half an hour from my house, and I called another club brother who has a trailer. We went and got him off of the turnpike, brought him back to my house, dropped the bike off to a guy that works on bikes, got a new tire for him, shipped in the next day, and that guy will talk everything about the Warthogs and how he was treated.
Right.
And he wasn't even a member. The club's given over $1 million to different charities, officers in need, firefighters in need, court officers in need, dispatchers in need, kids in need. You know, we love the supporting different kids, charities, and fundraisers. I mean, it really is. And, you know, you joke or you talk about, you know, people seeing us like in the grocery store. And my wife and I joke, you know, I'm walking down the aisle. I'm not a small guy. And, you know, I've actually seen people turn their buggies. And I say that because I may be from Cleveland, but I'm a Steelers fan. And buggies is the official term in Pennsylvania. And they'll take their buggies and go the other way. And the wife and I look at each other, we start laughing and go, we're a charitable organization.
Well, I'd like to think that I've met myself a lifelong friend through you, especially getting introduced to you when I joined the club, being a part of the Cleveland Memorial now, something that I'll never forget and I'll continue to do with years to come. But I really appreciate you supporting the podcast and coming on and sharing your story with us. So thanks again, Apstick.
Oh, absolutely, because you've been pimping my name out there for the last couple episodes.
So here's what the deal is. Your royalty check is in the mail, and it'll get there when it gets there. But just so you know, royalties of zero is still zero. So thanks again, buddy. I appreciate you.
Well, no, I'm looking down the road. You know, I figure, you know, you get big.
No, that's what it is. Then I'll send you your check.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
Love you.
All right, guys. So next up, we have Havoc here with the Michigan Warthogs. These guys are putting on the Rendezvous for us. So first off, I want to say thank you for hosting one wonderful VU. I mean, this is a great place to do it. I've been on since 2021. I've seen some VUs and how they operate, but this is just one it seemed like it's been super organized. Everybody's having a great time. And I really do appreciate it. Well, I want to introduce you guys to Havoc. What's going on, brother?
What's up? What's up? Hey, you're welcome. We put a lot into this. We put a lot of time, a lot of effort into it. And, you know, our biggest thing was keeping the prices down with inflation, everything going on.
Oh, yeah.
You know, people just want to come out, let their hair down and have a good time, get a break from work.
Right.
Sometimes get a break from the kids and life. And, you know, cops, firefighters, you know, we're humans too. So
right.
We see a lot of trauma. We deal with a lot of trauma. Or we see the worst out of people every day. So it's good to be able to you know, just open up and be human and be normal and enjoy ourselves. So
that's what I like it so much about VUs, because you get that sense when you pull in here, you're like, I'm where I need to be with my brothers. This is a place where I can just let my shit go. I can relax this weekend. I ain't got to do shit. And you're around like-minded people all weekend.
Right.
So let's start off. Go ahead and tell everybody where you're from and what you do. It's kind of like a little background about your Warhog story.
I'm from Detroit, Michigan. I currently live outside of the city, live in Belleville. I was with the Detroit Police Department 23 years. I left as a sergeant, and I'm now a firefighter in the small town of Belleville where I live at. So I kind of made the jump from cop to firefighter after years and years of making jokes of
Yeah, how it
about
always is.
firefighters and whatnot. Here I am.
Turned out to be one.
Yeah, my brother's a Detroit firefighter, so
I did 5 years voluntary, and then I switched over, and now I'm a little bit different, but I got that fire background. Had a lot of fun with it, but when I moved and bought my first house, I was outside of the district that I was in, so I had to leave and wasn't able to stay with them. But so, how did you get your road name, Havoc?
So I actually got it when I was with the Detroit Police. When I was with the Violent Crime Task Force with the FBI. I didn't have a code name at the time, and we went to go do a search warrant or a drug warrant for 3 kilos of cocaine. And when we pulled up, like all havoc, all hell broke loose. So, they said it was because of me. When we pulled up, there was money flying, people running everywhere. The dope guys just threw the money in the air. It was just raining money, and there were people in the backyard, there were people in the front yard, there were people in the house. I'll never forget. I went to go jump over the fence to get to everybody in the house before they tried to get rid of the dope. And I'll never forget looking over, watching my partner just unlatching the gate and going in after I jumped it. So they told me, anytime you're around, all havoc breaks loose. So
that's awesome. So do you have a Warthog story that you'd like to share, or a work story, or anything kind of about you, or something funny that happened that you know of?
There's too many stories to even just, with this club, every day is an adventure.
That's the truth.
So many personalities, so many stories, so many people, so many characters, just straight characters. The great thing about this club, you can go anywhere. You can Ohio, Pennsylvania, you got a place to stay, you got a place to go, you got brotherhood, you go to Canada, you go to Norway, you got brothers here that will take care of you. But I will tell you, I want to say it was 2014, the last time we did the Rendezvous here. A group of guys wanted to go see downtown Detroit. So we probably left around 9 o'clock or so. It was just starting to get dark, and I mean, they were following me, and I hit the freeway, and we were gone. I mean, we were rolling. We got from Warren downtown probably in about 12 minutes, 15 minutes. I mean, we were flying. So one of the guys, his road name was Hot Rod from Cleveland. I'll never forget it. Now, mind you, the guy's name is Hot Rod. We get off our bikes, and he walks up to me and said, "Y'all need to slow down. Y'all riding too fast." Can I cuss on that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I said, "Motherfucker, your name is Hot Rod. You supposed to ride fast." He said, "Y'all need to slow down. Y'all riding too fast." So, anytime somebody's going fast, Train and I don't know if you interviewed Train.
I'm going to interview Train next. I think I actually share a really good story with him as I was a prospect for my first year. I think he went to a breeze ride, and him and I share a good story. I want to catch up with him about it. And I know this is super important too. When we, Cambridge chapter actually got voted on and made an actual chapter here at the last VU in 2014. So this is our 10-year basically as a club in Cambridge. It's super important to us too. Thank you.
Congratulations. Yes.
But thanks so much, Havoc. I really appreciate it. I'm going to go see if I can find Train, a couple other guys, and get them interviewed. But thanks so much for supporting the podcast. And hopefully you guys will get a listen to it and hang out and see what else goes on. So thanks so much for the view. I'm having a wonderful time.
I'm glad you're having a good time. You need anything, you want anything, just give me a holler. I'll make sure you get it.
Nope, I got a cup right here. We're getting wobbled right now, buddy.
All
All
right.
right, thanks, bro.
All right, well.
Listen, I know you guys are probably getting into this, and I get it. Believe me, I had just as much fun recording this as you guys are listening to it. But I'm telling you, I hate to do these cliffhangers, but I've been listening to some of the people and the way that I've put out my episodes. I'm saving some juicy fucking interviews for part 2. You guys are not going to want to miss it. So to start out with episode 2, I'll do the recap, but you guys are going to get in the next episode Train from East Washtenaw, Michigan. Him and I share a really good story about me being a prospect and him giving my first prospect challenge and what that meant to me. And I've remembered it for years, and I haven't seen the guy hardly ever since. But we finally meet up with each other and we get to tell our sides of the story of how the prospect challenge went. We also talk about him being a football player. You guys are going to want to know what this guy does. I mean, he has a great fucking story that he's going to share with you guys. Then we move on to Happy Feet out of Cleveland, East Ohio. This guy and I have a personal connection somehow, some way. I met this guy at a bike show for my first bike show I think that I ever went to. He came down. We were both firefighters at the time, and him and I go into some deep conversation about just some real life shit and how it's really affected us. And even though being a firefighter is hard, different coping skills and some shit that we've dealt with, he's a good fucking dude. You guys are going to want to listen to that interview. And then to round out the night, we have Berm, Codeman, and Birdlegs, all from the Bell Dirty chapter. These guys are our sister chapter. It's the closest chapter to us. We spend a lot of time with these guys. I go to their breeze ride every year. Berm and I have a fucking story for my prospect challenge that you guys are going to want to hear. That's probably one of the best stories that I have as a Warthog, and you guys are going to want to know it. So stick around for that. Codeman and I sat down. We talked a little bit. We got to meet each other, shake hands for the first time. Me and Birdlegs were prospects together at Kentucky when we went to VU. I'm telling you, you guys do not want to miss part 2. If you do, you might as well just pack it up and go home, because I'm telling you, just don't miss it. That's what I'm telling you. Don't miss it. So until next time, hang in there just a little bit longer and stay wobbled for me, because I promise you guys are going to want this. Till next time, guys, hang in there. Stay wobbled.